and good evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this wild, wet, and windy night. Well, it's actually pretty not as been as wild as we thought it would be, but it's been enjoyable. I guess it's been quite cool today as well. 5 to 6 degrees below average, and it's a very cold start to July, all courtesy of our meandering low off the coast. And we'll find out more about that very shortly. But we have lots to review before we get to that. So let's hop into it, see what's happening with the current situation. All right, so first of all, we've got some observations here, so we'll make them up a bit bigger for you all. And we'll start with those, and then we'll work our way around. So, yeah, as I said, cold, 12 degrees top, 13 degrees top. The harbour had the highest warm temperatures because of the obviously the surface of the water's temperature's warmer than the air at the moment. But Holsworthy shivered to a 10.8 degrees today, which is insane. It was actually only 10.3 overnight, so it really didn't move much at all. In fact, that was the warmest it was at 10 o'clock, at 9 o'clock this morning, just after the max reset, and it hasn't got any warmer since. And in fact, most places this morning recorded their warmest temperatures just after the 9 a.m. reset. And since then, it's actually been cold. And interestingly, we haven't had anywhere near the severe winds that was touted, forecast, modelled, whatever we were going to call it, which is an interesting situation in itself. And it's pretty got down to the fact about where this low actually developed, the speed at which it developed. It didn't bomb like all the media and the hype merchants actually talked out. Yeah, it definitely got going and organised itself. But again, when you look at satellite picture, it doesn't have that explosive cyclogenesis and, that sort of aggressive sort of low look. It's sort of a bit of a sloppy, loose affair most of the day. In fact, the most aggressive we saw it was just swing with that huge supercell to our southeast and northeast of the Illawarra. They're moving towards it with potential tornadic water spouts and stuff underneath it. Otherwise, it's been a sort of a sloppy going on affair. There's some active convection on it now. We'll look at it in the satellite picture in a minute. But yeah, it really wasn't that explosive bomb that they've been making out to be. But it doesn't mean that we didn't have some decent weather. There has been some strong winds around. We can see here in the obs up to 83 k's an hour is the sort of the strongest it's got, and that's only just recently actually 45 knots. And that's on the harbour again. And that doesn't surprise. Most of the water would get decent winds. 47 knots this morning at Kurnell is the highest in the Sydney Basin so far. Let's see what Woolloomoolong got. Woolloomoolong got 61 knots or 113 k's from the south this morning with a line of storms that went through, showers that went through, including that beast that went ploughing into the Illawarra and caused all that rain for them down there. 61 knots, 113 k's an hour, not bad. But in Woolloomoolong seems to be a real magnet for those gusts because it's on the exposed sort of coast on that south eastern of us as the Royal National Park sort of juts out into the Tasman Sea. It seems to catch all those winds unabated. But pretty much 46 knots at Penrith this afternoon, just now, 85 k's an hour. Pretty good. That's pretty windy. Plenty of 45s across the whole basin. And so really only place that sort of missed out is the southwest, which interestingly, then you go up to about 30 knots, which is just bizarre in itself. But that's pretty bit of a wind shadow effect from the Blue Mountains for them, and also perhaps the exposed sort of escarpment around the Illawarra there, bit of a wind shadow for them because anywhere else is basically in those 40. So same as Campbelltown, only 23 knots. Interesting, and that was this afternoon. I would have thought those showers that went through would have dropped some stronger winds, but anyway, there is the beat. So all in all, nothing sort of overly exciting for us. Plenty of rain, or not plenty of rain, good late 20s, early 30s. Again, really nothing other than a sort of standard windy sort of wet day, but around the place there has been some pretty significant fall, so we're not going to diss them for that. Quickly look at the severe weather warning. Again, has just been really issued for basically the coast south of Port Stephens or Seal Rocks, and then they slab up into across the northern tablelands there, and that's mainly due to the upper level, the mid-level shear, the winds above the surface, and hitting those elevated areas, obviously, and they're pretty strong, which is pretty synoptic or associated with a cold core low and a Tasman like that. You normally have those strongest winds are above the surface, not necessarily on the surface, and they're definitely suffering the effects of that inflow into the system. Locally destructive winds, we haven't really seen that here in the metropolitan area, even though it was warned, but they are still persisting with the warning for tonight. And we can see basically here, so two splits here in the south, on the coast, sorry, with damaging south to southwesterly gusts up to 110 k's an hour, peaking tonight basically and easing overnight. And then for the rest of the basin, metro basin, it's south to southwesterly winds up to 90 k's an hour. So that's what we can look forward to, although we probably haven't seen that at any stage yet throughout today. So, but it's possible we might have some wraparound action from the low as it's continues on its merry way to the south. It's been a bit slow moving since we put the advice out before, saying it was moving about 15, 20 k's an hour, and I basically said, well, stuff you, and sort of pulled the handbrake on a bit. It sort of wobbled around a bit, and that's pretty also in response to that approaching upper system, and we'll see where that is at the moment. And there's still some conjecture now that it may even get through, which is what I think the Bureau have mentioned in their outlook here. Where is that? Here. They expect a potential northeast turn into the Tasman Sea during Wednesday, and I think that is definitely in response to the delay of that upper system coming through, and so it's going to get sort of pushed back out, and we'll see what that does happen. And then also maybe that Fujiwara effect, so that other system sort of cannibalizing it and pulling it back out, which we saw in the models this morning. Some of the models had that, if you recall. Otherwise, it is still we're still under a severe weather warning, only for those winds, nothing else. And also, we also have those huge seas, coastal sea water with the erosion, and there's some pretty significant erosion going on in the Central Coast area at the moment, with people being asked to evacuate their house immediately due to the seas actually breaching either sand dunes or whatever walls they've got along there near the entrance there, lake's entrance. So thoughts out to those people in that Central Coast area. We'll look at that in the SCS warnings in a second. Zooming now into the rainfall in the Sydney metro area. Again, nothing extravagant. Lots of light blues there, which is quite surprising, to be honest. Greens here towards the coast, and getting up to 45 mils on the coast, which is not unsurprising. There's been 46 mils down in the Royal National Park. Again, I'm surprised by that blue after, to be honest, after what we saw. We did flag this morning that we for the last few days, we didn't think it was going to be a rain event. For us, it's going to be more wind, and even then, the wind has been barely flogging with a limp let us sleep. But it's actually been nice to have a nice, cool, wet, sort of wintry, proper wintry day. But again, other places have sort of copped it as well, so we're not downplaying what they've copped at all. Just speaking specifically about the metro and what we've experienced here. And of course, we're going to look now at the river heights. We saw that the Bureau did issue that. We'll actually go back to that warning. It's pretty good to pull it up now and have a look at that. The Bureau did actually upgrade again the flood warning or flood watch for us, and raised it from minor to minor moderate flooding, and that obviously will depend upon exactly what's falling. We'll look at the inflows around the Nepean yet. There's been not much at all at this stage, so I'm expecting this may be dropped overnight back to minor, if not even that, because there's not been anywhere near any responses in those streams yet. There's been some pretty good falls on that eastern, so northeastern flank of the Blue Mountain State, which were not forecast, I must say, by any models at this stage. And so, again, that will be interesting to see how that flows down. Most of it will go down through that northwestern branch through Colo and that sort of stuff there, and sort of bypass most areas, thankfully. So, but I know that Tracy and that Lower Portman, hopefully you'll be okay out that way. Again, was not really forecast by the models, but we just sort of picked up a few days ago, if you remember. Then it did drop it off, but we did actually have about 140 mils for you guys, and then for some reason the model sort of dropped it like a hot potato. So hopefully there'll be no issues out your way, and of course, if you need any assistance or anything like that, please reach out to all of us. We're all here for you, and we'll do what we can. But fingers crossed that we won't see that. I think probably the main effect is going to be potentially that releases from Warragamba. and I'll try and get that off screen for us to see again what the New South Wales Water did say. If that water, anybody's got a link, if they can stick that in the chat for us, that'd be a link. We can stick that up and have a look what the Warragamba commentary was going to be about their releases from Water New South Wales, or New South Wales Water, what do they call themselves? Again, but we'll be interested to see what exactly happens. Going to the latest river heights, so we'll pop down to us. I don't know why it's got the South Coast when not even interested in South Coast. Goodbye. Here, generally speaking, the South Central Coast area, you can see some pretty good falls in that northern South Coast area, which we flagged, and southern Illawarra, we did flag that again a couple of days. There's been that sort of concentrated stuff. Generally across here, sort of moderate falls, some getting into some different falls here. We can see here reverse series. Never even heard of that, but 50 mils there in the back of the Illawarra escarpment, in Darks Forest. But again, some pretty damn good falls. Lots of dark orange there. I'd love to see Wongawilli's falls actually in this event because they always tend to do massive around this. Up the back of Dapto there in the escarpment. They do hold a few of the rainfall records for New South Wales. And I think even Australia maybe. Well, I think maybe no Mount Bartle Free, whatever it is up near Cairns, I think holds most of them up. But Wongawilli is pretty up there with 500 and something mils, I think, in 24 hours or once it got, which is pretty substantial. Looking now at the rainfall on the South Coast, really pretty good falls there in some places, but not so much else. And again, yeah, there's really not much response yet in any of the sort of those rivers down there, so that's good news for them. Let's zoom into us and have a look. Of course, it's going to do that. We want to go river rainfall conditions and river rain data. Here we go, and we will go down to go there. All right, so we're into the Central Coast. There you go. So the Wallumbilla at this stage pretty steady, which is interesting. There is some rising down the Widgecarribee, which is no surprising given that there's those falls around Barrel and stuff. So that'll definitely keep it up, but it's only 30 centimeters. I mean, that looks dramatic at that graph until you look over here and you realize it's 30 centimeters. So it's not that massive, but still, it's obviously some inflow coming down there. And looking down to the lower Hawkesbury, obviously. It'll be up and down because a lot of these places are tidal affected, so pretty not good looking at that. There was one actually that was pretty impressive, which I think it was this one was at Cat-Eye and Murphy's Bridge, I think, which is up near Colo. That's a pretty decent jump, of 1.5 meters within a period of time, and that's definitely in response to some of that heavier rain in that eastern or northeastern Blue Mountains we've seen on radar today. That's a persistent sort of rain train and convergence band there. Nothing really there, and you can see down here Cox's River steady, not really interested for us. Warragamba pretty much steady except for Nadi River at the Crags. I do love that place. Pretty decent jump there, going from 60 centimeters up to sort of 90 centimeters. 30 centimeter jump, not bad, but that's not going to contribute massively into the overall dam levels you would have thought. This is probably the area we wanted to keep an eye on, which is the Nepean River. There's been some decent heavy falls up the back of the dam, all those 4 dams up there, and as a consequence of stuff sort of spilling over from the Illawarra escarpment. But you can see here, nothing massively incredible. Picton, no surprises there. Big, decent jump there, 50 centimeters almost. Again, not overly significant at Stone Quarry Creek. Now, Menangle River, Menangle Bridge, and Menangle Weir are the 2 ones that we're going to keep watching, keep looking at, because it's obviously the first place, as you can see here. Someone's taken a leak there. It's got a long way to go before that sort of flows through. So we're going to look up into sort of the upper areas, and I think these are sort of like the Cataract River at Cataract Dam up there. Some decent jump there, but it's at minus 0.3 to minus 0.2, so what, 10 centimeters? Not hugely massive at this stage yet. So these will be the ones to check sort of tomorrow morning to see. That'll give us a pretty good idea about what is coming down. But again, Camden Weir, not much happening there either. Menangle Bridge, I think we checked that, didn't we? We look at Menangle Weir, nothing there. So again, we're not really seeing much response in the riverine systems to these the falls today. So that's a good sign for anyone along the Nepean Hawkesbury. I'm not saying it's out of the woods yet, of course, because sometimes this will take a bit of time to flow through. But you know, nothing that screams, oh my God, watch out. These are all rising because I think you'll find they're all tidal influenced. Yeah, there you can go. So that zigzagging you see there is the tides. So that's definitely nothing there. What you need to see when you look at these is where it starts to rise, where these peaks are. That's obviously the top of the tide. When it starts to go above that, then you know then that's floodwaters on top of the tidal waters. And that's when it starts to sort of rapidly rise. But there's nothing at this stage that's sort of worrying there. But no doubt the SES and their awesome crew will be monitoring that like uh, hawks watching prey and keeping people safe. And you see, there's nothing really that's massively jumping out at this stage that says, there's problems. Parramatta River, that'd a pretty decent jump there, but that's what, a meter. That's not bad. At Toongabbie at Bryans Creek Road, bit of flow runoff there. But again, there's no flood levels there. You can see there. Otherwise, it'd have like minor, major, that's the stuff. So it's a decent jump there. Few jumps around there, up to a meter, and some of those creeks around those areas. And I assume some of these would probably flow into the back of the Georges River. Or no, actually, the Parramatta River goes in the back of the harbour, doesn't it? So nothing going to worry there. Georges River is probably the one they normally watch pretty, especially around that Liverpool area, around this Milpera, Kelso Creek, on these sort of areas here, Lansdowne Bridge. But you can see there's nothing really says rising there. Georges River, Liverpool, let's have a look here. Long way off any sort of flooding issues there. Redfern Creek Road, that's a Redfern Road, up and down, but starting to fall again. But 50 centimeters there is not going to create any sort of difficulties. George River at Minto, I reckon that's a bit of that sort of up and down you see there is pretty bit of tidal influence too, because I would imagine that would be some tidal stuff there at the back of the Georges River at Minto, considering they sort of flows into the back of the Port Botany there. But yeah, nothing that's really sort of showing anything that's Cooks River falling. Moronora was raised, I think, by Cody at this stage last night. Some decent rise there. We can see it's going from minus 0.25 up to about, so pretty 10 centimeter rise there. So that's definitely something worth watching just to see how that responds to it. Good jump there from 0.5 to 0.2, so 15 centimeter rise there at the Woronora River at the Needles. And I assume that's pretty post dam looking at that, considering, but would flow into the back of, and you can see here, this is the Woronora River at the Woronora Bridge, and I think this is post dam as well, getting almost close to the back of where it flows into the back of George River there. I think, is it down past the Menai there? Is it? Minto, around that sort of places there. I'm not really all. Is it through the Sutherland? I'm not sure about that. I know there's a couple of people who are around there. If Cody's on, let us know. But you can see again, really nothing there that says anything that's to worry about from the Woronora way. So that's pretty that issue around us. Nothing there that sort of screams issues at this stage. All right, let's have a look now at the SES and their warnings. I'll make this it's pretty big enough for everybody. I think you can probably see that. So this is the areas around here. There's a lot of properties in danger here where the sea has eroded the sea dunes and the sand dunes and stuff, and actually encroaching properties and putting people's lives in danger. So thoughts out for those people. Again, also some plate properties around here on the coast of Gosford, Warrnambool Drive, parts of Ocean Drive. Isn't that down where our Prime Minister has his new gajillion dollar house there? But yeah, that's not good for those people down there. So I hope that they're okay. That's really distressing, actually, that. And thankfully, there's really not much else. This yellow area is that's just a general flood threat advice, obviously. And these are areas here where the SES has put their sort of own stay informed stuff. This is obviously in response to the Bureau's raising these potential flooding issues. But the good old haunts that tend to get when the cat goes and has a pee against a tree. It tends to flood a bit, but you can see here that all the Nepean Valley, and again around that back of the Georges River there, around Liverpool and Menangle, and those quite low-lying areas. If you've ever been a drive through around Liverpool here, around the river there, it's actually quite low and quite sort of boggy, and a lot of river sort of marshes and stuff, especially around, like, example for a Holsworthy for stuff. You just zoom in back here, you can see quite a lot of waterways and sort of billabongs and that sort of stuff. Actually, are they called billabongs? I suppose they are because it's where the river's sort of cut off. But you can see very low lying areas around there. So it's not like there's been just massive amount of rains. It's just that the area around there is incredibly low. And as I said, it doesn't take much for the rivers to sort of get up and sort of start flooding those flood plains that you can see there, all those sort of green areas. And thankfully, there's been some decent planting by the looks of that. So they kept a lot of that sort of green spaces there. So a lot of the water doesn't impact or encroach upon people's place. But obviously, they're along here around Voyager Point and back of Hammondville, that sort of stuff, there's a bit closer to those sort of greeny, those wet areas. So hopefully you guys will be all safe out there. And I was actually quite surprised in the last of the floods. I looked out here to the back of Camden and Cobbity there, and look how much surface water is around. A lot of dams and stuff around there. It's actually obviously quite very low lying in a whole range of that stuff out there. You can see, look, no wonder they built Warragamba where they did. Quite a lot of waterways and dams, and it's obviously low lying or some good water areas out there. Didn't recognise that. So last time we sort of went through this scenario, it's like, wow, okay, a lot of sort of wet areas out there. Okay, but otherwise at this stage, there's no other advices from the SES in relation to our neck of the woods anyway. Obviously, those Central Coast areas, please look after yourselves, pay attention to your local warnings. Now, I was mentioning before about, I wish I could get rid of this bar here, but I don't seem to be able to. If I can maybe drag that along, there we go there. About the delay of the system and its impact. So the upper trough is this system here coming through. You can see the moisture flooding in from the Indian Ocean as well, and there's a bit of cold air with it as well, and that's expected to come across and actually amplify the system, which is our over here, this Tasman low here. And you can see it's a bit of a ridge blocking the progress of it at this stage. You can see there's dry air here coming through here, which is and this both this system from the southeast here, which is again another sort of both these sort of upper troughs. This is a bit of sort of the colder one, and this is obviously the one with a bit more moisture. They're both trying to break through, and they're supposed to supercharge this low. You can see they're actually getting deflected around this ridge. So I guess we'll wait and see exactly whether they manage to break through or not. We'll have a look at some check out some models later and see what it forecasts out. But you can see the upper ridge is quite strong. You can see its impact upon the low today. You can see how it's bending that sort of rapid circulation around. And you can see it's now sort of aligned very much west-east as opposed to today it was sort of north-south. So you can just see exactly how much that ridge is knocking that system around. And it's one of the reasons why there's been such good convergence over the Blue Mountains today. So you can see it pushing right against and creating that convergence. And very, very, very sharp line. I love when I see this on satellite pictures. You can very, very clear, distinct line between the systems, and you can see how it's dragging all that stuff away to the poles, and really deflecting the insurge of moisture, which is going to sort of help the system and the colder air from this. So there's two troughs, upper troughs here. There's got this one coming in from the polar areas. You can see here very cold air, and then you've got this one over here coming in from that surge of moisture from the Eastern Indian Ocean. Yeah, very interesting sort of dynamic setup. All right, let's have a look now at what's going to happen with the models and what the latest updates with. Hopefully we should be fresh off the server right now, and we've got Mr. Windy in the background here. He's struggling to load himself because it's very difficult. Oh my god, I got to load 3 images at once. We love you, Windy, if you're listening, by the way. But yeah, come on, get this thing going. I wish you could actually increase the speed in this. I said that this morning, and I really say it's just like watching snails mate. You can see that lovely hook wrapping around there, and definitely indication of that exactly what we saw on the models. You can see here the inflow of this trough feeding into the band into here. You can see the main sort of focus has been here. You can see that convergence being right across the Blue Mountains as it pushes into that system, which is that the geostrophic flow of that ridge to the west of it, very clearly by this arcing cloud here. You can see, again, even the ripples in the cloud here. You can see these little ripples as that ridge sort of shreds that stuff as it gets over the Blue Mountains and goes, oh, yes, and then whack, gets the dry air and the ridge on the other side of it. But it's actually helping that rainfall across the Blue Mountains. And there's been snow reported across some of those high peaks, especially on the Oberlin Plateau today. You can see here, this is that potential secondary system for the Fujiwara effect that we were watching this morning. This is it here. You can see lightning, fresh lightning in that massive sort of storm convection here. See now there's definitely some sort of low pressure system there, or an area of low pressure there anyway, and we'll watch that for some vorticity and starts to spin up. And you can see here that just really the low is very disorganized. Really what's actually driving all this is this convergence from this trough feeding into the bands feeding into it. That's what's really hammering the south coast and the Illawarra per se. You can see here the winds are unabated as they hammer into it, which is causing that great sort of rain areas for the Illawarra and south. And where the sort of Port Cousins sort of in the poor return flow of this weakish low off the coast. And you can see it's just slowed right down. Before it was actually moving south, and we're like, yes, go away, leave us alone because you're not doing much. And now it's just going to hang around and be a party pooper. But we'll watch obviously for any signals of intensification. But you know, a good thing for you to watch out if you've got access to any sort of lightning data or radar with the lightning is keep an eye on if there's any lightning in this mass here to the east and of northeast of Sydney and southeast and east of Newcastle. This is where if there's lightning here, that's definitely showing that the low level convergence center, which is somewhere around here in this hole here, you can see this dark hole sort of elongated a bit, but that shows that it's starting to deepen if you get lightning in there, because that means the air is rising quite rapidly. And when you have convection like over here, you can see lightning here, then there's definitely a sign that there's intensification. But you can see there's really not much happening other than just swirling around and dumping a whole lot of rain in areas outside of us. This will be interesting to see just exactly how it affects the inflow. You can see here quite persistent bands of moderate to heavy rain. Pretty moderate rain here, you getting into that heavier bands, but yeah, interesting to see just exactly how that works out. And we'll check out current radar in a minute. We actually might zoom in because looks like there's a bit of another band of sort of gusty showers coming in for us, which is great because we've really had not much now for a period of time, have we, other than some drizzle. Yeah, some light to moderate range. You can see how they're now peaking on the coast, and they hit the coast and they start to lose their intensity. Then you can see this, how they then those moist winds then hit the elevated areas of the eastern Blue Mountains, and they start to intensify again as that wind is forced up and over the Great Dividing Range, and the orographic effect squeezes every single last drop out of it. And you can tell that's happening because when we drag this picture here, you can see how the cloud mass rapidly deteriorates and falls apart as it gets over the western side into that sort of eastern central New South Wales, and not much happening. And that's because the Blue Mountains have sucked every almost drop of it, and then they've got, of course, that drier air from the ridge on the western side just ramming it and hammering it as it comes over too. So some definitely good falls there. You see a lot of this heavy falls has been almost right over the dam, so like it may cause some rise in the dam level, but if it's right on the dam, there's not a massive catchment area. If anybody's got that link for the New South Wales Water and Warragamba Dam levels, that'd be great. You can stick that in the chat for me, and we'll check that out as we go. So if you want to just jump in, I think you should be able to paste the link in there for us, and we'll pull up on screen and have a check it out. Otherwise, I'll just pull up off screen. But yeah, bit of a line coming through here. So this is what we're going to see probably persisting overnight now. We'll probably get lulls, a bit of drizzle, rain will sort of come and go. The sort of winds will be around, but they won't be too strong at this stage. But then you'll get these lines, which will have gusty winds associated with it, and sort of, moderate to maybe brief heavy rains at times. So, and if you're on the coast, the really thing to look out for these is when they start to get in that red like that is obviously the existence of water spouts and that sort of stuff as well, and potentially coming ashore. And that's where that locally destructive winds in the Bureau's warning does come from, is that definitely that impact of those little spouts popping on, and we'll check them out towards the end of the update. All right, let's get into some models now. We're going to do the usual and go for wind gusts because obviously that's what is probably going to be the biggest focus for us over the next few hours, and then we'll go and check out here. So let's just make sure we got fresh data. So let me just check. 24 minutes ago, EC, fresh off the servers. There you go. So you can see here, again, it's pretty much off the mark when it turns and winds. I don't think there's many places that are consistently over 40 at the moment. There's been a few gusts about 40, but again, this is the gust that I expected. So looking for tonight, you can see that these sort of gravity line type things that wobble around. You can see sort of come across, the wind's light, and then you got a surge of the winds from behind. This is the sort of wraparound effect I was telling you about here. We keep an eye on. Um, and you see the lows sort of wobbling around and then tightens up and then sort of loosens up again. Um, Definitely some stronger winds overnight if EC is correct. Um, you can see here that basically the winds will drop off very soon for most of the night, and people will get a bit lackadaisical, I think, and think, oh yeah, what's the quote I saw today? Another fizz. Ah, I love those comments. They do, mate. They do put me into a fizzer rage. And then there's the potential wraparound of some pretty strong winds, especially for the Illawarra. Look at that, 60 up to 65 knots, if EC is correct, of course. And that is the potential of that upper system sort of approaching if it does get through and the starting to sort of get rid of that ridge, which is sort of hampering and holding this back. I mean, 65 knots here. And anywhere on the south of the coastal areas too, 50, 60 knots, that's pretty nasty. In fact, up to 50 knots in a whole lot of the basin there. So if ECTA comes off, then be prepared for some pretty hectic winds overnight, starting at about, put your alarm on at about 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m., 2 a.m. 2 a.m. on the coast. In the west, about the same too. You can see there's some patches of it. So, about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then it gets nasty from about 2:30 to 3 a.m. So if you hear it banging on that time, then you know it's what it was. And then you can see it drops off pretty quickly by sunrise, back to sort of a low 40s. And then as the low wobbles around, you can see that's 2 sensors there. So it's really just not doing well, is it? And you can see again, sort of gusty winds on the coast, but I mean, I'm not sure. We didn't see them today. So, and then a rapid sort of clearing tomorrow night, according to EC. And then really sort of pivoting and pulsing, but gone by Thursday. So really, like tomorrow lunchtime, we should see a pretty dramatic dropping of conditions. To be honest, we'll go back to sort of moderate southwesterlies with obviously some stronger gusts in those elevated areas because they catch that sort of shear that's above the surface. But yeah, look at that, 29, 30 knots. It's not, and they're gusts, mind you, that's not consistent winds. If you look at just normal winds, 15 knots, that's going to be nothing. It's probably what we've had for most of the day. In fact, it's almost calm at Richmond there, at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So it might be more coastal sort of winds, not much happening there at all. So definitely a dramatic easing according to EC tomorrow. So, I guess maybe Axis is showing something a little bit different because they do mention a sort of burst through Wednesday, Thursday, and I can see a bit of a burst there Thursday morning. But again, mid 30s to late 30s isn't really going to worry too many people unless that this arm of these winds does manage to penetrate a bit further west. And of course, yeah, that's definitely some grounds for worry. You can see here, 55 to 60 knots, a bit quite nasty, but just it's off the coast here. Nothing really clips the coast here for us anyway. Don't forget there's probably other areas, but and the same goes for Central Coast. Pretty much what we're saying for Sydney will apply for Central Coast. All right, let's go and have a look at what tonight has in store for us according to GFS. GFS has got a bit more of a loose, sloppy sort of circulation. Not surprising. Again, we've talked about how it's low res, and again, nothing really surprising. It does have that same burst of winds through to early tomorrow morning, a bit later. So GFS has it sort of 4 to 6 to 7 a.m., whereas EC has a bit earlier. And then after that, it's pretty the last. It looks like it's the final hurrah actually. Then GFS likes a bit of burst again. There's winds around lunchtime and sort of persisting into Wednesday afternoon, whereas EC says nah, see you later. But then it's probably the final hurrah actually. That burst we see overnight. All right, here's Icon's take on things. So again, if you look at, I always look at the current scenarios, and if the current scenario doesn't match up what the model's saying, then you can basically say, yeah, okay, it's either a few hours over or it's over forecasting, and so it looks like it's a bit over forecasting. Although it's been, I mean, to be fair, just after 5 o'clock there, we did see some 45 knot gusts and some stronger gusts in the, so it's not necessarily fully out of the picture, but you can see here, winds generally easing overnight as we just sort of progged. The elevated areas still say, just obviously quite gusty. and then basically calm. And then let's see if it does pick up again. Yeah, it comes back that 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Not anywhere near as strong though as what EC had. Definitely a patch developing there as that sort of eye the wobbles towards it and wobbles around. But yeah, Central Coast definitely tomorrow morning. Some pretty strong winds for you guys early morning on either EC or Icon, and then you can see Icon pretty much hand in hand with EC. Pretty much dramatic clearing from lunchtime, almost over. A bit of a wobble overnight Wednesday, maybe a clip of the coast, but nothing there. Probably Luara's going to cop it again. Yeah, a little bit of a clip of the coast just there, but nothing dramatic into early Thursday morning. And that's that northeast wobble that the Bureau did talk about, but then gone. Um, Interesting. Icon and EC pretty much on the same page. Let's see how Access looks both in terms of the general model, and then we'll also look at the Access C, which is the higher res model. Again, looking at that, definitely some of that 45 knot, mid 40 gusts, which we've just seen, so not far off the mark. Let's see tonight. Gusty winds, easing again overnight, so pretty much what EC and Icon were saying. Then we got this surge of southwesterlies, southeasterlies. Axis does not have it at long at all. You can see here about 2 or 3 o'clock again, and then you can see the return flow of this. The low here, you can see the real break in the winds. You can see this surge of southeasterlies, but doesn't really make it onto the coast. It gets wrapped into the low, just sitting there basically, and then it gets bumped off to that northeast, which is what the Bureau mentioned as well. Doesn't get much further past Sydney. Let's go what Access has. Still likes pretty strong winds actually for most of tomorrow. So you can see the Bureau is running now with Access scenario for sure. Because Icon and EC have it clearing by then, but the Bureau Access model is definitely hanging in there for winds. Pretty nasty gusts in through to early Thursday, and then it has that clearing pattern. So it's 2 versus 1. So I guess we'll get to see who the winner is. The winner takes it all, as Abadu say. And we'll check now Access C, and we'll check some of the rainfall figures. I'm assuming at EC, my guess is going to be now that EC and Icon will have very much a drying pattern, maybe a burst of showers sort of overnight, and then very much clearing tomorrow. Access is probably going to be similar drying because those winds were sort of southwesterly, so you don't tend to get decent rain out of that direction. But here we go. Here's Access C's taken it. You can see here some pretty nasty winds off the coast, but again, the splottle mottle effect. It's sort of down. Those sort of patchy effects here is the impacts of winds being dragged down with showers. That's why it looks sort of like you got chickenpox or rubella or measles, whatever it is. Heading into Tuesday night, again, very much in easing conditions, even on Access C. So it's actually with Icon and EC, and it's not with its own sister model. It's definitely agreeing with their competitors. And then we've got this wraparound sort of potential increase, but again, it is ditching it altogether. So it's out on its own. It's saying, nah, clipping the coast just a little bit, and little coastal winds throughout tomorrow, and then that sort of clearing pattern. You can still see there's still some pretty strong winds. Bit of down mixing off the Blue Mountains there with some of those winds, especially around the Richmond and Penrith area. Still, so again, it's a different scenario as what we've seen. It's sort of like a hybrid between Access and EC, but again, winds tomorrow. Nothing sort of screaming up, just approaching that severe category. You can see that those purples there is just pushing into severe, into that 40 knots, but keeping everything off the coast, clipping the coast areas again early Thursday, which is what its sister model Access did have. And that's the end of the outlook for Access C. All right, we'll do its rainfall outlook first because it's only a very short-term one, so we'll just do a complete for the whole period, its outlook period. Again, 40 mils maybe on the coasts. Again, those that raised area around Knights Hill, Saddleback, etc., doing the best. Consistently underreported the eastern Blue Mountains, which is interesting, but not much at all for us. Even on Access high res models, that southeast sort of corner doing okay because of that southerly, more southeasterly flow, and the escarpment catching those winds and lifting it up over, and a bit of orographic effects along there. But by and by, coastal areas doing well. Definitely seeing easing in all other areas across, according to Access C anyway. All right, let's go and have a look. We'll do our usual 12-hour slots. We'll go to 6 a.m. tomorrow. And we'll head off to EC since it's first on the list. Okay, so 12-hour slots. So basically from now until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, you can see some pretty good coastal falls, but again, nothing more than 30 mils. Still persistent falls around there and around sort of in the Blue Mountains area. All right, let's go from 6 a.m. tomorrow. I reckon we're going to see pretty much a drying pattern. Let's see how correct we are. Yeah. Picked it like a broken nose. Max 5 mils again for the most of the basin. So it's basically sort of winds tomorrow and then all over Red Rover. Let's have a look at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. tomorrow night. We got that wraparound shower, so chance of a shower, especially in the sort of the south, southwest, and southeast. Maybe coastal stuff. But everywhere has like some rain there, so there's potential shower. Overnight Wednesday into early Thursday, and then we're going to look now in for the rest of Thursday, and I'm pretty much sure it's going to be dead dry. Yep. And then it is all over in terms of EC's perspective, anyway. All right, let's have a quick look at Get Far Away Soon. Again, pretty much same. Mid-20s, maybe a 30 mil for us, but generally good falls across, and that's probably a smoothing issue because of its low resolution. So it's probably more concentrated in some areas, maybe. Everybody gets an inch overnight. I think we'll be all pretty happy, actually. And then we'll look at tomorrow. I'm pretty sure it's going to be dry like everywhere else is going to be. Yep. So, yeah, it's still like some falls on that sort of area for us, up to 20 mils, but I'd be surprised that it happens, to be honest. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened. Look at today. Bit of a shit show in terms of what that low's doing. It still likes to continue some coastal stuff in through Wednesday night into Thursday morning, which is good news for those who want some rain. But it's the only model so far out of 3 that are doing it. So, and then basically goodbye, done Thursday morning. So let's have a look now at what ye olde icon is saying. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty dry, like what we've seen with EC, to be honest, and Access C as well. All right, guys. So tonight, again, some good falls, bit of a gap here up in that Central Coast area, which they'll probably be happy about, considering how wet they are. And most, of course, focused over that exposed escarpment down near Kiama, Saddleback, and Knights Hill, around that sort of area. Potentially up to 40 mils in the southeast, which is not bad. Looking ahead from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning through to 6 o'clock in the evening, picked like a broken nose, pretty much a very dry pattern. So again, EC and backing each other up, very much consistent in that northeasterly bumper is going to basically just take away everything with it. So maybe up to 5 mils on the coast. So basically some gusty showers throughout the day, but that's about it. Still going to be cold and windy though. And we'll then go into Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Again, that's sort of wraparound event that we saw, mainly focusing in the Illawarra and those sort of elevated areas. Chance of some an isolated shower or two. And then going from... Did we do Thursday night, Wednesday night into Thursday? We did, didn't we? Yeah. Going then from Thursday morning, I think it's all over Red Rover, done and dusted. All right, last but not least, let's have a look at ye olde Access and see if it's going to back up its friends. And GFS will be the only one out on its own. So again, the next 12 hours, we can see some pretty good Access, like some pretty good showers again on the coast. 25 an inch there, down to almost 2 inches in there, or not, almost 2 inches in the Gong. But some pretty good coastal falls, but tapering off pretty quickly as you push into the west. Again, that high area around Saddleback, Knights Hill, definitely doing the better out of it. Pushing into tomorrow, so 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. across that day period. Yeah, pretty much backing up Icon and EC. 7-8 mils on the coast, not much in the west. So just windy, cloudy, and pretty shit weather, to be honest, without rain. And then looking into overnight into Thursday, again, not much at all. So pretty much that's the pattern, I think, peeps. Showers easing by sort of lunch tomorrow. Still running windy, mostly cloudy, still cool, but isolated showers, maybe turning a bit more scattered overnight again for that little surge. But yeah, basically all done and dusted, I think. Well, that's what the models are saying. Um, and then Thursday, dead, nothing. And then I think Friday, dead, nothing as well. Yeah, all over bar the shouting. All right, so we are going to look at that line coming in to check if there's any Doppler out. So let's have a look at that now. Let's go radar. Maybe not. Hello. There we go. All right, so we've got, let's just do the hour and we'll put that on a loop. Yes, you can see the lows off here, well off the coast here offshore, and these wraparound bands, these gravity waves kicking up some showers, some isolated heavy showers amongst that, but nothing really significant. We'll go to the base scan because the base scan gives you a better idea what's going on with the surface winds. Still some pretty damn good falls up in the Blue Mountains again. That'll get some of those, especially those Colo streams rising. You can see that it's significantly eased off about the Katuma and that sort of southern side, which is going to be good news for anybody on the Nepean Hawkesbury. All right, let's look at the winds and see if we can see any little things of interest. So let's go do it frame by frame. So they're the ones, sort of these areas here. There's little pimples in the middle of nowhere. The ones you need to keep an eye on, especially on the coast. There are definitely water spouts within the stronger showers and potential for coming ashore. There's definitely some very strong winds here around, near me right now, actually. Oh, I should look outside. Is there people flying past? Oh, there goes a dog on a leash. But yeah, nothing that sort of screams out this stage with those showers. That's actually a few minutes ago. To help if I actually fast forward to the right time. Definitely some water spouts around the Illawarra there now. Definitely some pretty nasty winds area there. And one down near here, I thought it was like quite windy, thrashing around a minute ago. Let's go into, we'll have a look at a zoomed in picture. So definitely some very strong winds right near me at the moment in the back near, it'll clean up Caringbah. No offense to people in Caringbah, but it'll clean up some of those people that live at Caringbah. But there's definitely something nasty happening right there now. Either it's pretty a heavy shower. Let's have a look if it's rain. Yeah, it's a downdraft. Some this heavy shower right here you see coming through is actually pulling some of those, or moderate shower anyways, pulling some of those winds from upstairs down with it. So it's not like a microburst because that actually is from convective. It's just what they call advection, which is where the winds are pulled down from the different layers. And that is a pretty nasty sort of, there'd be some decent sort of locally interesting winds there, if not pushing up into damaging, if not destructive. You can see here again the influences of the escarpment along here. There's pretty nasty winds all along the escarpment there to be raging through. And nothing much on this stage. This couple of little dots here to keep an eye on with those heavy showers. So if you're radar watching along the coast, that's what you're looking for, is these little isolated pimples where under showers. So if that's like that and there's no shower around, it's probably just rain. Look at that. Wow. That's that is literally right on top of me. Almost. Oh, interesting. Okay. Keep an eye on. I'll give you a heads up about what's going on there. That's actually some pretty freaking nasty winds right there. That's getting up into that locally destructive category that we are talking about. So those showers must be pretty damn strong if they're dragging stuff down from here. You can see this band of showers coming through, some pretty gusty showers, and it's dragging some good winds. Anybody down that area there, let us know. That's the back of, looking at that, that's down near where Shark Park is, around the back of Tarrant Point almost. Although Tarrant Point, I think, is more over here, isn't it? Yeah, that's pretty around the Shark Park, around that area, into the back of where it goes past, I think, is it the school or something down there, or the sewage works and all that. You go at the back to Kurnell, that road back to Kurnell or down to Carnarvon Ridge Bear, but definitely in that area there. If you're down that area there, let us know what the winds are like, because that's pretty nasty. Actually, that's pretty damn savage. We'll have that looping in the background. Very much so. Some very nasty showers, and that's coming straight for me. So I'll definitely give you an update if that does do anything of note around here. Interesting. I'm going to leave the Doppler on there. Actually, no, I'll put it back on rainfall, but yeah. Put it back at constant attitude because it'll give us a bit more splotchy, but there you go. Look at that. There we go. There we go. That is definitely going to have some locally destructive winds. That last frame right here. See that red there? And it's actually purple. Now, if I can zoom you in on this, let me see if I can do that. That is nasty. That is potentially a tornadic water spout or something going on there. That is absolutely nasty. So if you are down that area, heads up, there is something very, very nasty coming your way. Look at that purple. And that's purple. That's not going to be hail because the atmosphere is too warm above in terms of the lower levels anyway. But that is really, really nasty. That is seriously nasty. Wow. I'll zoom it right in for you, but that's not good. So if you're in that area, just hope everything's going to be okay because there's going to be some pretty destructive, locally destructive winds there. That is definitely a water spout or tornadic water spout or something. Probably a water spout because I can't see any evidence of like a rotation that would make it a supercell. But you're still going to get tornadic, non-tornadic water spouts that can do a lot of damage. But that is definitely something of concern around that area. So if you're in that area, heads up there. It's coming straight at me. Ooh, I hope it hits me here. If I zoom down again, yeah, look at that. It's quite a large area, so it's probably not a water spout because it's too large to be obviously a water spout, but it's definitely some sort of local downdraft. I mean, it's hard to call it microburst because it's not technically a microburst, but it's probably the best term that people will understand. But that's definitely pulling down some very, very, very strong winds. At that stage, that's looking at, you know, it's probably 100 k's an hour, 110 k's an hour, maybe higher around that area there. And I'm just up here, not far away from it. And if it keeps on its trajectory, I'll be able to tell you firsthand what the hell is going on because it's literally heading straight at me. If I can put that loop on because the button's so massive now. And speed it, slow it down. Let's go here. You can see it just developing on the back end of that showers and then, wow. Definitely keeping an eye on that. Okay, you can stop now. I didn't say continue. Thank you. Yeah, definitely extends onto that. So that beach there, Kernell Beach, just the back of Sir Cronulla Beach, right almost into, actually, it's not far away from the heart of Cronulla, actually, there. You can see it backing up. There's carrying bars around here somewhere. So it's definitely expecting a wide angle. So anybody out that way, is it, oh, forgive me, I got the name wrong. There's, I hope she's on that. Is she in the chat here? She does actually. Is it Alicia? She's down that way, Cronulla way. She definitely will be getting impacted by that. Hopefully she's around. That's nasty. Alrighty. I don't think there's anything else to update. Or a quick look at some questions. Anybody managed to find the link for the Warragamba forest? Nope. Hello, Barry. Lovely to see you. Finally worked it out. Yeah, it's just a click and join us. Got a new front door in today, and now it fights with the wind gusts. Luckily, you, Funky Diva. And hello, g'day, Sean. Gust North Coast, yeah, the evacuation, that entrance. G'day, Rachel. Lovely to see you. Tracy, great to see you guys are okay. Thank you, and yeah, keep us updated about what's going on your way. I mean, there is some pretty serious falls in that northeastern part, but we saw last time there was those massive falls. It still didn't really respond as much as we thought it was going to be. So fingers crossed, you know, that will be the case today for you guys as well. Colo plots, yeah, definitely colo plots would be definitely, I think, would impact Portland quite a lot too. And I guess the outflow from Warragamba is going to be the what they do there is going to be important as well. How much they let out the spillway. By the way, it is hammering down here at the moment, but not a breath of wind. But I'm imagining that whatever that is heading straight for me, not far away now. You are welcome, Tracy. Have a great dinner. I know you've obviously gone for dinner now, but yeah, enjoy. Hello, right, sir. I came here to say that I found the exact spot my show was leaking. Well, I'm glad you did that. We're all the better for it. Well, it is hammering here right now, and no wind. I'm not sure who Ratso is, but that just made my night. So thank you for that. Is this the first of more ETLs or the tail end waving bye-bye? Um, I really think this is going to be the season not for ECLs. We've seen already 3 times when the conditions have been pretty right for actually ECLs to form and they've never formed. I'm not sure. The SAM jumped massively positively just 2 days ago, which is definitely ECL helpful because when the SAM goes positive like that means that the westerly wind belt does pop up a lot higher, which means that those cold pools and upper cold pools get further north quite easily. So that's what helps. So a positive SAM is great for ECLs. It's crap for rainfall. Generally, rainfall. Negative SAM this time of year means a more easterly originating rain events, which is those deep coastal troughs and stuff. So obviously, the easterly or northeasterly air is better. It can hold more water. Tropical moisture is always better than cold air moisture, but it jumped massively, and I'm like, okay, maybe we're going to see something, but yeah, I'm not sure. Like we've had 2 occasions now with that in that May event where it definitely could have had an ECL form, and it's just like the upper support wasn't there. So it seemed just on my lay view that I looked last time and what I looked this time is the jet, which is what drives ECLs as well. Like it's one of the key ingredients you need for a true ECL is it splits, which is what it's supposed to do, but it's getting further east before the lows are developing, which is why there's not really you're not seeing him with this rapid cyclogenesis or bombing cyclone, what the media called it. We saw that's to me just my perspective so far is that's the biggest difference between that and a true sort of ECL is we're not seeing we're not seeing that jet really wrapping across it and that winds them up. And you can see even by the satellite picture of that that huge Nike flick going way out to the northeast. You wouldn't see that normally if the jet stream is doing what it should be doing for it. It just says to me the jet's east is too far east, and while it's aiding and abetting sucking that moisture in on the eastern side, it really hurts the western side because it allows that dry air for the building ridge and the high pressure systems to the west to push into the western part of the system and ingress that dry air which is inhibiting development. That's just my look at it so far. But I mean, these post events are going to be interesting to see what that is. Look at that here, little spots here at Colonel. There's definitely some persistent sort of strong winds or something going on there. That red's definitely up, but there's still some that light color. There's definitely some 90k, 100k an hour gusts right there at this stage, and there's definitely another little thing about to come on shore there, just to the south of Colonel. And there's spots out here to the southeast of freshwater, DY and stuff. They're worth watching too. That's some definitely very strong winds there on that. So it's just for another heads up. If you're you're in this blue, you're looking for red dots, and if you're in the red area, which is basically from that sort of Sydney sort of Gordon sort of Terry Hills, if you're in the red, you're looking for the blue dots. So vice versa, if you're looking at Doppler and trying to work it out. Yeah, definitely some interesting scenarios going on there. Hello, Detail. Let me see you, Daniel. Sar. Hello, Sar. Lovely to see you. And yeah, I actually mentioned at the start of the stream, Sar, about the gusts at Penrith. That was pretty impressive out that way. I'm not sure who Ratso is, but that definitely made me laugh. That was so good. Dita, lovely to see you. I'm so glad you made it 2 in a row. Oh, you've started getting a reputation for actually turning up the streams. No doubt you'll send me a nice, pleasant DM after this. But it's so good to have you here. Radar's just updated. You can see that kernel was dropped off, but then here comes that right near that white area now is almost right on top of me. And as I look at the window now, I can see the tree starting to thrash around. So it'll be interesting to see what that consequence is. That's right on top of me, just about almost in the backyard right now. That asterisk, that star of those that whiteness. So it's actually pretty seeing my legs. That's what the radar's picking up. It's actually not rain. It's my lack of suntan, pale skin, white man legs. Oh yeah, it's hammering down again. Gunner Mattaway. That little blip looks like Shark Park. Yeah. Gunner Mattaway. I don't know what this. Funky Diva, is that? Yes, I thought it was you. I swear I was like, I'm hopeless at remembering like user handles. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's Alicia, isn't it? I'm sure it's Alicia. And please don't hold me to that if I do get your name wrong, and don't try not to be rude. But I swear I was like, I'm sure we've got a person down at Cronulla Way that would maybe be experiencing that stuff. Did you get any of the gusts, or did it sort of go past you? Definitely went at Shark Park though. Western Sydney thunderstorms, 102 k's. Hello, Western Sydney thunderstorms. Yeah, I just mentioned that actually at the start of the stream. Definitely some pretty good damn winds out there, and you can see these. There was there actually. Let's go back and show you exactly where it was. Right about there, you can see that coloured mass just the back of the Doppler radar there as it goes over. And unfortunately, it's a bit cut out, but that's where your strong winds are going through. You right there. The gusts. Um, pretty impressive. Bit of a calm coming through at the moment. By the looks of that, still some winds around, but and you can see these little splotches everywhere. That's really the showers pulling down those extremely strong winds. You can see little dots across all the places here. One near the airport now, one across at Rockdale, sort of at the back there. Definitely across and right on top of me now. Yeah, so keep an eye on those splotches there where locally destructive winds are possible. That's part of that warning, and they'll come on sort of unannounced. This, I mean, this is a bit misleading. Like you look at this big patch of blue and you think, oh, it's blowing its gale off here, but it's pretty more just above the surface in the cloud band, not necessarily at the surface. That's the other thing too. Um, let's go. Penrith was windier than the SDF for a while. Absolutely. Western Sydney thunderstorms. Coast has been dramatically quiet until a few gusts ago, and it's definitely some stronger winds pushing ashore now. I think you're actually seeing the effects of that orographic effect. Actually, the wind's pulling up against the Blue Mountains, because that's how low level this flow is at the moment, just banking up. Only light rain canal at the moment, so no wind. Yeah, it's yeah. Certainly gusty, and it's like the blazing settles around the bonfire at the afterburners. Went past me a few gusts, but nothing major yet. Funky no more. Beans, nachos. Oh my god, you're definitely responsible for those downdrafts. Then it's Funky Diva's fault. Yeah, that white air coming my way is your fault. I hold you to account for it. All right, well, quickly, I'll get back out of the zoomed in feature because it's starting to give me oh my god, too close feelings. We can go a bit farther so we can see maybe not 150 soon. Where's there not one between 125 and 150? And I'll just quickly check radar, and then I will any other questions quickly. Otherwise, I'll go and have some dinner. You guys are pretty all the same. I'm actually getting pretty famished. It's been a long day so far. Yeah, you can see that that line that went through Penrith that actually gave those strong winds. Definitely pulled down. Would have been through there. You can see that big patch, and that there's an orange patch that would have been responsible for those winds. I've put velocity on now. Can't see it unfortunately because Terry Hills has a bit of a blind spot for the Westies. Doesn't like you people out there, so write to Terry Hills and tell them off. But you can see definitely that would have been that part there, that little orange core. That's where you got that winds from. And you can see this is that band of pretty strong showers moving through now, which is going through me at the moment. Definitely some gusty winds with that, and possibly locally destructive as well. So if you're in the line of this, in the firing line, this is that other line I was warning about for basically from sort of Bondi through to Northern Beaches. Just keep an eye on that because that's looking pretty chunky. And you can get these gravity waves now. There'll be like this periods of quiet between it with maybe like an isolated shower, and then there's sort of big lines as these gravity waves spin off the low that's off the coast, offshore, just doing not a lot, minding its own business. Actually, it's not minding its own business, it's being a jackass. Give us some rain. Still some pretty good bloody falls up there. It's now in the back of the Hunter, so it's sort of cleared, and it's over the backside of the Great Dividing Range, thankfully. Still some good falls down here. But otherwise, that's it. I am going to say thank you so much for your company. Oh, just whack the mic. Have a fantastic night. I'm going to leave Sean's favourite moment of the night. Stay cool. I'm not sure about tomorrow morning yet. I'll let you know. Like I don't think it's going to be anything nasty overnight other than those winds, but that's at 4 o'clock and it'll be gone by the time. But we might get on and just do a quick summarize what's going on for the day. Yeah, actually, no, bugger it. We'll get on at 7:30. Set your clocks and alarms for 7:30. We'll be on to enjoy the pleasure of your company before we all head off to work. I hope we get rain tonight. Not too many destructive winds, but let's hope we get some decent sort of falls. We deserve it. And just one last observation before I do send you through to Sean's favourite part of the evening. This is see this rain pattern here, this radar pattern, that is very non-ECL. So if you have anybody trying to pull the wool over your eyes and tell you it's an East Coast low, that is not what an East Coast low looks like. Generally when East Coast lows are around, the Blue Mountains gets nothing. It's all coastal within like 25 Ks, and basically of that, there's not much. This is definitely a cold chord, Tasman low, frontal low, whatever you want to term when you give it, because you can see these bands away from the actual low level circulation. So in fact, around this low level circulation, so there's not much happening at all. You can see on radar at all. And if it was an East Coast low, that's where it'd be raging. There'd be pretty some lightning. There'd be definitely some strong storms or something circulating around that low level circulation center. So, the radar doesn't like, even though certain people and certain Facebook pages like to like. But anyway, that should be it before I get myself into more trouble with, dealing with trolls all day long. Thank you again for your company. It has been an absolute pleasure as usual. And ready for the key of G. Have a great evening. Take care and look after yourself. Good night.